Now let's ask all of those questions to our guest about what could be the strategy and also the stock bets here. Let me bring Kunal Shah, the Director Analyst at Indiabulls Ventures, into the conversation. Kunal, good morning and welcome to the show. First up, what could be a strategy on Bank Nifty or Nifty, either of one, wherever you're comfortable?
See, overall talking on both the index, I think still the structure remains positive. What we saw yesterday was basically long unwinds that were happened due to the global tensions. But I think overall the structure for both the index still looks very positive. I think till the time Nifty doesn't breach 11,200 or closes below 11,200, I think we are still in an uptrend. On the upside, yes, Nifty faces resistance as 11,375. I think once we close decisively above levels, I think we'll go towards the levels of 11,500. So I think overall one should keep a bullish momentum, keep a buy on dip approach. We might see in the near term 11,200 to 11,375 acting as a trading range, but I think one should keep a buy on dip approach rather than a sell and rise approach. Similarly, the trend for Bank Nifty also indicates, I think still we stay about 27,200. We are still in a bullish momentum. On the upside, the index faces resistance at 27,800, but once we decisively close about 27,800, I think we will get towards 28,500. So I think overall the momentum setup for both the index looks
bullish
positive.
To me.
Yesterday what we have seen was long.
So Kunal, you're sounding bullish to me. The question here is now, on Friday, can actually somebody go out and buy a call or Nifty or Bank Nifty, or futures is a better place where you want to be? Perhaps what would be that strategy?
See, I think overall there are global tensions that is going on, so we might see volatility on the opening sessions that might affect the gap up, gap down scenario. But I think overall one should keep an intraday approach of a buy on dip approach. I will not suggest to carry positions since it's a weekend and options we have time value that erodes very quickly going forward. So I think one should on a call option basis or a put option basis should trade on an intraday basis. Futures, yes, one can carry, but again one should have a buy on dip approach. I think any dip in the market could be an ideal opportunity to go long.
Right, and what would be your top calls for the day?
See, I think what we have seen in the index, we have seen broad consolidation that was happening since the past 2 days. One stock that comes to my mind is Balkrishna Industry. Yesterday we saw good volumes that was built up into the stock. We saw 10 to 12% of open interest that was increased on the upside. The stock has given a good fresh breakout. So I think the momentum looks very positive in the near term for the stock. I think one should keep a buy and dip approach into the stock, and we can see going forward levels of testing the all-time high of 1350 going forward. So I think one should keep a buy and dip approach on such a stock. 1200 is a very good support for the stock. I don't think 1200 would be broken in the near term, and we can see a swift upside to the levels of 1350 to 1400, which are the all-time highs for the stock.
So Balkrishna Industries again is looking good, as what again basically is being told by our guest, but then a couple of other stocks again where there are some interesting open interest additions that are happening here. What's your view, Kunal, in terms of stocks again like Marico, Divi's Labs again have been actually showing some interesting accumulations? Are these stocks again coming to radar? And I also want to add, because again Pharma is buzzing here, so Torrent Pharma, some very strong additions happening there. What's the view there?
See, firstly starting with Marico, I think Marico posted results yesterday. I think that was the reaction what we saw because of the results. The stock was down yesterday. See, overall the trend still remains positive for Marico as long as the stock stays above the level of 336. I think one should be in a comfortable position to go along with a stop loss of 336. Overall, we might see some consolidation happening going forward, but yes, overall the trend still remains positive. One should keep a buy and dip approach till it holds the levels of 336. Talking about the Pharma sector, I think Pharma has bottomed out somewhere, and I think we will see a fresh rally that would be happening in the entire Pharma sector. And I think Torrent Pharma, as you mentioned, I think is one of the very good stocks in the Pharma sector. Even during the bad phase when Pharma was not performing since the last 2 to 3 years, this was one of the stock which had a least fall amongst all the Pharma sectors. And I think when the structure is revising again for the Pharma sector, we are seeing Torrent Pharma being an out player where we are seeing good returns on the upside. Again, we are seeing from the past 3 to 4 days good amount of open interest that was built up in Torrent Pharma, along with the cash volumes that was happening. So I think the stock is in a very good trend. We have just seen a consolidation.
Kunal, just allow me to address the flashes here, the important flashes, and let's bring a Reliance Communication chart on the screen and also Reliance Industries. The news at the bottom of the screen actually is saying to you that Supreme Court has allowed Reliance Communication asset sale to Reliance Jio. The stock is up 15%. Why it's up 15% again? Because again, and also another news again, where Supreme Court is saying that Arcom basically is going to pay Ericsson the amount again basically which was again scheduled to pay. That's the amount here, 550 crores by October 1. So again, another 2 months to go, and that's a sort of settlement which has happened here. So asset sale is going through to Reliance Jio. Reliance Industries basically getting the fiber spectrum for Reliance Communication. This was an impending sort of deal again, and that basically this removes the uncertainty again. So the deal actually is going through, and that's the sort of news flow which is creating a stock price reaction here. Kunal, coming to you, you were talking about Torrent Pharma again, and you were liking the stock here. I just want to add a couple of more stocks here. What's your view on Biocon? Some interesting moves again. Good open interest addition. The stock is up almost 1 to 2%. Also, Larsen Toubro again, another 1% up. What's the view there on these two stocks?
See, I think as I mentioned, I think Pharma still looks very good. I think Biocon is one of the stocks, even when the Pharma was not performing, it was performing very well. So I think one can definitely look to go long into Biocon. Overall, the structure for the stock still looks positive. I think it's merely into a consolidation that is happening into Biocon. We will see again fresh highs going forward. But overall, in the near term, yes, the stock still looks positive. One can definitely hold the stock with a stop loss of 557. On the upside, you can see targets of 620 to 630. So I think it's a good bet on the Pharma, but one should keep an investment approach rather than a trading approach. But even if someone wants to trade for the near term, I think the levels that I mentioned are crucial for the stock. Also talking about L&T, I think yes, L&T has seen a very good run up in the recent times. Now the stock is broadly into a consolidation phase, but I think once the stock crosses the levels of 1350 on the upside, we will see sharp momentum on the upside towards the levels of 1450 to 1500. So I think overall the structure for L&T still looks positive. Probably it's in a broad consolidation that would take place for a week or two, but overall the momentum still looks positive. One can look for an upside target of 1450 to 1500.
Well, that's the take coming on L&T here. Now let's take a short break, but stay tuned, because when we return from the break, we are going to talk about a couple of interesting stocks here. What's happening again the PSU Bank side again, because we are actually seeing a rally in the PSU Banks that has also supported Bank Nifty, and then also some more stocks again where there is some interesting activity happening in the auto space also. All of that after the break. Welcome back. You're watching the F&O Spotlight. Now let's talk about three interesting pharma stocks where there are very strong open interest additions happening here. Ajanta Pharma, Strides, Shasun and Lupin again. All the stocks actually are seeing some interesting trends in terms of open interest additions. Ajanta 5% addition in the open interest, Strides, Shasun 5% addition, and also again Lupin actually where we are seeing 4% addition in the open interest. All three on the long side. Kunal, how are these three stocks looking to you?
See, overall, talking on the Pharma, yes, it looks positive. We have some of the stocks results that are coming up. So probably we can see some profit bookings that could be coming into the stock. But overall, talking about Lupin, I think it's one of the best pick that looks in the current scenario. We have seen since the last 3 to 4 trading sessions, good amount of open interest that has been built up along with volumes. Lupin can test levels of 925 going forward. So I think overall, the trend is still positive, but I think the stock has rallied too much and we have results coming out for the Pharma stocks going forward, so we might see some profit booking or volatility before the results come out, but overall the trend still looks positive. I think one should keep a buy and dip approach. Any dip into the stock could be an ideal opportunity to go long.
Right, so that's the view coming here. What's the view on the PSU banks? And I want to ask in particular on PNB, where there is some good sort of build up again coming up for Punjab National Bank stock here. The open interest addition is 5% on the long side, but the question, and Canara Bank is also again seeing almost 5% addition though on the long side here. But Kunal, the question here is, are the charts, are the trends telling you that this movement could sustain and we could see more upside? Can there be a long position initiated here?
I think firstly talking on PNB, I think the stock has been beaten up a lot. I think we have started seeing some kind of base formation that is happening, but I think that is still not confirmation on the downside that whether the base formation is very strong. I think it will probably take more time to consolidate around these levels. So I think rather than PSUs which are already looking very good, I think rather than PNB there are very good stocks which could be picked up. Else PNB, I think SBI looks very attractive at the current levels. Yes, Canara Bank looks attractive at the current level. So I think even if someone wants to play into the PSU banks, I think SBI and Canara Bank would be my top pick, where one can definitely initiate longs. Though structure has been very good for the stock, specifically for SBI. We have seen good amount of open interest that has been built up into the stock. I think SBI can test levels of 350. That is the all-time high levels going forward. So I think one should keep a bound up approach on SBI and look for higher targets of 350 to 360. Similarly for Can Bank, I think we have seen good amount of open interest built up. The stock has come out with results and they were very good. We have seen post that good amount of open interest that has been built up into the stock. So I think overall the momentum still looks very bullish on Canara Bank. We can test levels of 400 going forward. So I think the scale on the upside is very huge. I think Canara Banks is one of the stock which could be kept on the radar for investment purposes and also for trading purposes. Any dip into the stock is an ideal opportunity to go long.
Kunal, I have two more stocks for you. One is NIIT TECH. Again, the stock has again resumed its uptrend. 18% addition to open interest, and wherever open interest addition actually is more than 6 or 8% or roughly 9 or 10% more, the stock actually starts showing a strong uptrend here. So watch out for this stock. Second is DABUR again. After a good consolidation, a day of silent trade. Today again the stock is trying to move higher, 1% higher. So Kunal, both the stocks, if there can be any positions which could be initiated.
See, I think Piyush, what stocks we have been talking about, I think NIIT TECH and DABUR, I think they look very good on the charts as well as on the open interest front. The amount of open interest that has been already built up into the stock is very huge, which indicates good amount of aggressive long build up that has been gone into the stock. So I think we will see more upside going forward into such stocks. I think when markets are at all-time high, you prefer to stocks which are to be less risky and you get good reward on the upside. I think DABUR and NIIT comes out of those lists. So I think one can definitely go long into these stocks. Talking about NIIT TECH, I think the stock has now formed a good formation at 1062 levels. So I think as long as it stays above these levels, we can see targets of 1500 to 1600 going forward. The long-term trend looks very bullish. A good amount of open interest has built up. There has been good volume in the cash market. Every data that supports the stock, I think one can definitely look to add longs into NIIT. Talking about DABUR, again, DABUR looks very attractive at the current levels. We have seen some kind of open interest that was built up into the stock, which is now acting very positive for the stock. The stock recently come out with results. I think the results were fantastic, which again went to a good amount of open interest that was added into the stock in the near term. So I think DABUR can test levels of 500 to 520 going forward on the upside. And I think the stock has already rallied too much. So for the near term traders, I think keep a buy on dip approach. The near term support for the stock now stands at 420. So I think any dip towards 420 for the stock could be an ideal opportunity to go long for upside targets of 500 to 520.
Well, 500 again, that's the level again. Kunal is seeing perhaps with how much time, I think because again the stock has seen a run up as Kunal was just saying, but the open interest addition is looking very strong. That's I think something interesting for the momentum traders here. And that brings us to the end of this edition of F&O Spotlight. Kunal, thanks a lot for providing us all the insights into the strategies here. And stay tuned because as we take a break, there will be more news and updates when we return from the break on the other side.